Kayla, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastically well. Thanks for being with us. Lauren, how are things in your world?
I'm doing great. Great to see you, Ramon. Hope you're hanging in there. I don't know how you do it.
And I enjoy it. Vic, thanks for being with us, man. How are you and how's your family?
I'm good. Hopefully the kids don't barge in, but I'm great.
If they do, we roll with it. It's all good. You have small ones. I have adults in my house, so it'll be funny. You'll have the small one probably act like an adult, and the adult one in my house act like a kid. So we'll see.
I got dogs that bark, so.
Oh, that's all good. We'll roll with it. But with that, as well as we're getting ready to warm up here, remember in the chat, ask questions to Lauren, ask questions to Vic, ask questions to Kayla, affirm, give comments, things you like, talk about it. We'll pull it up on the screen. There's no distraction. I don't get distracted. Well, I do, but it's all a big oasis. So with that, I'll start with you, Kayla. Why don't you give us a bit, help us understand a bit who you are, what you do, and what we can learn from what you're doing. Take 1 or 2 minutes and unpack a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. You're so freaking awesome. Like, I could not say no to this opportunity, so thank you. I'm Keila Taylor. I'm down in Atlanta, Georgia, doing my thing. I own and operate multiple businesses. Universal Salon Suites being my latest and largest venture. We provide workspace to beauty entrepreneurs. I have a 10,020 square foot facility, so I'm super excited about that. Yeah, and that's just one of my companies. I'm also an insurance broker, property and casualty license, and then Marquee Enterprises, which you see behind me, is the big boy to all the companies. We do some small business development and government procurement, all that good stuff.
I love it. When we first met and I got your email, not about this, but we worked, weeks ago, I was just like, wow, I wish I could just take a bottle of Kayla and do something with it. So thanks for being here. Lauren Feldman, give us a bit of who you are, where you've been, where you're at, and feel free to take 1 or 2 minutes to unpack Advantage TV podcast or whatever's important to you. But I know when I hear your voice, man, it's amazing. I got it on my phone. I listen to it all the time. And I love your daily email and all that. So really, thank you for being here. But help us understand who you are and your years of experience in loving small business and entrepreneurship.
Well, first of all, Ramon, thank you. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for having me here. I'll try to be quick. I've been covering entrepreneurship and business ownership for about 20 years. I was at Inc. magazine for 5 or 6. I did the same thing at the New York Times. I did the same thing at Forbes a couple years ago. I tried to take what I'd learned at those 3 great companies and partner with someone to create what we thought would be the definitive community for business owners in America. Unfortunately, we ran into this COVID crisis and it's not working out exactly the way we thought it would. We started something called 21 Hats, 21hats.com. As you said, we had a daily newsletter. We have a podcast. We designed this beautiful platform that's a combination of content and community that it's possible no one's ever going to see because we're kind of stuck right now and we're pivoting. And the podcast is now called the Business Advantage TV.com podcast. But the podcast has really been a lot of fun and I love to talk about it. We started last fall. It's me and a group of 6 business owner regulars. We have a weekly conversation. And initially we talked about, whatever was going on in their businesses. And then of course the crisis hit and things got interesting. And, it became they were all fighting for survival. And every week we would check in to see how they were doing and learn from what they were trying, what was working, what wasn't working. And we had some really impassioned conversations, really difficult conversations. One week somebody walked in and just said, I just came from the meeting where I laid off 40% of my payroll. It was really intense. So I liked the idea with the podcast is that there are a lot of business owners who feel isolated, don't really know who to talk to about what they're experiencing. It's probably not appropriate to talk to employees, may not be appropriate to talk to your spouse or significant other because they may want to know what's going on. Maybe they don't want to know what's going on. You may have friends who don't really understand what it's like to run a business. This podcast is for people like that. So just to show that everybody's going through it. Whatever your challenge is, whatever you're experiencing, there's someone else who's dealing with it.
Yeah, so true. I must say I love it. I love the variety of it, Lauren. As you know, I email you from time to time, and I won't go into the detail. You just check it out, the 21 Hats podcast. It is Awesome. You learned so much.
The best thing about you, Ramon, is that you tell me what you like, but you also tell me what you don't like. And that's so helpful.
I do indeed. You're welcome. Vic, listen, man, thanks for being here. You and I go way back. Thanks for being here. Listen, give us open up a bit about what you've done, who you are, the 2 companies or more that you're running. And you know, my favorite, videosocials.net. It is cool. So tell us about that, but also more importantly, what you've learned. Take 1 or 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Tell us about the company, but also what you've learned in building it and what you're hearing. Because I've been on some of the calls and you have, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people weekly, several times a week, where you're hearing their insights, you're hearing their pitches. So take some time and help us understand who you are and what it's all about.
I totally understand what Kayla's going through in terms of running multiple things, let alone Lauren talking about not everything works out all the way you expect it to. And so there's a shift happening right now with us and then even in the social media world. So phoneblogger.net, which a lot of people know about, is our way of pulling content out of our type of clients. Our clients are your everyday lawyers, accountants, maybe even coaches, consultants, who get their business through word of mouth referrals. And so they need to stay top of mind with anyone that could bring them business, current clients, past clients, other peers. And, content is king and you got to stay top of mind. And if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. And traditionally, it used to be written blog posts and that would be pushed out by email and then posted, of course, on these social media channels like LinkedIn and Facebook and the other social media channels that make sense for our type of clients. And but a dramatic shift happened. I mean, now when you scroll Facebook, when you scroll LinkedIn, it's like every other post is video. And our clients are starting to fall behind. And literally these algorithms changed into prioritizing video. So we started telling our clients, hey, you got to go out there, talk to these videographers, get the videos onto YouTube, and then we could run with it as a content marketing firm. And Ramon, like none of our clients did it. And the time it takes, the budget it takes, because you've got like a paparazzi crew following you. So you know what it is. Our clients are not like that. They're your well-seasoned, very well-experienced professionals. And so we said, well, what if we could just invite them onto a conference call, like a Zoom call, where we conduct a roundtable and each person can present a 2 to 3 minute nugget of knowledge. And that's turned into a video blogging community. As you mentioned, we host 2 or 3 of these video blogging clubs every day now. Part 2 of Video Socials is a social media marketing automation app. It gets the videos out there. So we have partnerships with YouTube and Facebook Live and LinkedIn. It's really cool. And then our members start liking and sharing each other's videos. So what we've really seen is that belonging that people need is kind of doubling down on what Lauren mentioned. So really, this is a time for us all to come together. Either we can learn what's working and what's great and really celebrate each other's success. But sometimes we need to circle the wagons, really give each other a virtual hug and find that sense of belonging and higher purpose in helping one another and helping each other. And the more people we can help, the more we'll get help ourselves. And so at the basic level, we're just a platform for someone to record a video and post it on LinkedIn. Pretty mundane. But in a greater way, it's a way of us coming together and video blogging together, fun and done.
I love it. I love it. It's a powerful platform. I've been there myself and seen that as well. I'm just going to, I think, a little bit of echo there. And Lauren, I want to turn the first question to you, then I'll get to you, Kayla, and Vic. Lauren, I'm curious, when I listen to your podcast, one thing I find interesting is there seems to be, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't mind putting my foot in my mouth, there seems to be no one right way to build a business. When I hear Dana, my favorite, when I hear Jay, my other favorite, especially those two going back and forth, I'm kind of teasing it a bit here, and you're like in the middle there, I'm like, maybe both are right or maybe both are wrong. Can you unpack what I'm trying to say is that to those listening, is there one right way, or Jay, Lauren, do you find that there's a few different ways that could be done? And then Kayla and Vic, I want you to add on to that.
There are lots of different ways, and you're absolutely right. I'll give you an example. Our newest member is a guy named Paul Downs. He has a company. He makes high-end custom conference tables. He sells them primarily to business owners.
Right.
Right now, his phone has stopped ringing. You may have heard a lot of people are working from home. Commercial space is not what it used to be. He's facing a collapse of his sales. And he's getting the same advice from everybody. Everybody says, well, you got to pivot. That's what everybody's doing. Pivot. For example, make desks for people who are working at home now and need a desk. And we spent a lot of time talking about this. He's pretty much come to the conclusion that would be a mistake. Everybody talks about pivoting. He's probably not going to do it. And his answer is, you know what? There are a lot of people who are already selling $400 desks for people to use at home. They do it really well. They've got the supply chain set up. They've got the delivery so you can have it tomorrow. They're all set. He makes conference tables that can cost $30,000 or $40,000. He's not equipped to start turning out $400 desks and make a profit off it. So he's probably not going to pivot. His answer is he's going to hunker down. He is going to, if he has to lay people off, he's going to try to reduce salaries across the board. He hasn't been paying himself for months. He's trying to do whatever it takes to survive, to get to the other end of this. As you guys said, we are going to get through this. There will be another side of it. He wants to make it there, and he's going to do what it takes to get there. But that probably doesn't include pivoting. Yeah.
And the thing is, Lauren, and then Kayla, I want you to comment on this, is that who knows who's right? It's easy. Not that I hate those people in a serious way, but, the year later, or afterwards, that was a dumb idea. See, I knew this company would fail. You didn't know, Jack. But Kayla, what would you tell a company like Paul, using it metaphorically? How do you know what to do, Kayla? Do you go forward? Do you hold back? Any guidance that you're telling your clients you work with of how to know what to do, or what are you going through? I'm curious. What decisions have you made, and what have you based them on? Maybe that's a good question to ask.
Lauren, first of all, you're absolutely right. Like, there is no right or wrong. I've literally navigated throughout this whole pandemic just from experience. So every day, like, I'm constantly implementing something new, whether it's a new COVID compliance, something that I've gained from SBDC, or, a new policy and procedural something, or, revising my lease for the Salon Suites tenants. Just go with the flow. Do what's conducive to you and your business.
Yeah, no, that go with the flow. I like it. Vic, what do you respond to Kayla? Are you seeing that with the people who you're working with at videosocials.net? Are you seeing something different, contrarian? What are you seeing what they're doing, how they're navigating? Because we've all been punched in the chest, punched in the gut. What are you seeing?
Because so many of our members are, about 99.9% of our members are in the professional services, maybe even 100%, they're able to adapt if they want to, where they're able to be more virtual. They can use technologies like Zoom and other type of remote technologies. They're able to have situations where they can telecommute and remote and have portals for clients to upload things. I think they're having to realize that it's not necessarily just a local market, that because everyone can be more mobile and virtual, that they can go into a more national market. Now, sometimes they're not allowed to if they're licensed or barred in specific states or in specific areas of practice. That has to be careful in terms of how they do that. But I think this concept of pivoting doesn't necessarily mean abandoning what they're doing, but it can be extending or springboarding from what they're used to into something that is relatively new. For a lot of our members, it's looking at what they're doing in terms of content, not just as marketing, but can it be productized? Can they be like an infopreneur? And these are concepts and ideas that are nothing new for a lot of people as internet marketers, but for your everyday professional, attorney, and accountant, it is relatively new. And so we are one of these first forays for them to get into the world of content marketing and packaging themselves and productizing. So from that aspect, it can be exciting to brainstorm and help them see a greater vision than something that maybe they foresaw just 6 months ago, but maybe, necessity is the mother of invention and innovation.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I'm curious about the aspect of video. Any tips on that? I mean, I know that you're a video guy, so just curious, share with us marketing in general, video. What can we learn from what you've done personally? Marketing, what you're seeing on videosocials.net. Give us one or two words of advice for video and or marketing in general.
Yeah, look, I'm not a video guy, right? I'm not a videographer. I don't know anything about cameras. I have to be here in a bedroom. And I defer a lot of the videography stuff to videographers, people who actually are experts in the profession. And, a lot of it is common sense stuff. I remember literally last year, this time, my co-founder, Mark Bullock, he'd get annoyed because people would come onto video socials and they never knew what Zoom was, and they didn't know if they even had a webcam on their desktop computer, and they didn't. Like, if you don't know you have one, you don't have one. And so they would log in, they would come on, it would just be a hot mess. And then I started saying, hey, use your laptop, because laptops 99%, have a webcam. And that even was like ridiculous. Now we're like all sick and tired of being on video. And the irony is like, hey, look, we don't have to make it a video call. We could just do a phone call. It's like there's nothing wrong with it. We used to do phone calls all the time, DC, before COVID. In terms of what are we doing with video, keep it short and simple. I think people are overthinking it. With video socials, we're giving each presenter 2 to 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes. We say 2 minutes is ideal. Instagram cuts you off after a minute, so that might be a rule of thumb. A great pop song, a Beatles song, is less than 3 minutes on the radio. That's an attention span to think of. So keep it short and simple. And yes, if we have complex topics, we can have a series, part 1, part 2, part 3, and keep it short and simple. Something like this summit or anything longer than 5 or 10 minutes is more appointment viewing. Now, you might have those people who are kind of distraction oriented, but if you're going to do a Facebook Live that's, let's say, longer than 5 minutes, do it on a regular basis. You know how that is, Ramon, right? Do it like Sundays, 8 p.m., maybe not literally, because do you still do your Sunday 8 p.m.s? You used to, right?
I'm going to go back and do it. Rick, on that point, what happened was Facebook, it was so hard to bring people in. This morning I did a Facebook Live. You may have seen it, man. I had 2 or 3 people random. I was just clicking and seeing if they would accept my join, but go ahead.
Yeah, do that on a regular basis. I mean, and it's really, and I think that's a good point that you made, Ramon, that this isn't like for the rest of our lives. Like this concept, like where we have to now, like Lauren is mentioning, you don't have to have a podcast for the rest of your life. Like, okay, you can start a podcast and stop it. You can have a video blog for a little bit and stop it. It's okay. Like there's nothing wrong. And it's not about failure or it didn't work. It's about phases and making sure that we're doing what feels right for us and making sure that it's not just about the trend or the hype, but also what feels authentic for us. Now, sometimes we have to kind of go a little outside of our comfort zone. Yes. And so for a lot of our members, it is like they know they got to do this video thing and they're like, summing up their courage. But really, honestly, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people overthink it. And when they come onto video socials, they just realize that it's really easy. Just hanging out with colleagues and friends and video blogging together, fun and done.
Absolutely. Conversation to touch on mindset a minute here. There's a little bit of echo, so if anybody has a external speaker, maybe turn yours down if anybody does. But mindset here, I want to touch on that a bit, and I'll turn to you first, Lauren. Just curious, over your years of covering small business, any tips, guidance you can give us on resiliency? And I ask that because I find that when times are tough, and again, we have our personal times, a death in the family, a divorce, a child gets sick, but not all the time do we have a global or national thing. Now we're having that moment. Have you seen anything, Lauren, what separates entrepreneurs who succeed versus those who don't? Any tips, guidance, insights, and especially you're dealing with a panel of 4 different people, 4 different characters. What are you seeing? And then Kayla, I'd love for you to answer that, and then Vic. Lauren?
It's a really interesting question. One of the things I've always puzzled over with entrepreneurs is that to start a business and have any success at all, you have to kind of be willing to ignore the advice you get from everybody else. Because it's easy to find people who are going to say to you, that's not going to work. What are you, somebody's already doing that. Or, there are a million reasons not to start a business. And yet the people who do it keep going anyway. And they keep surmounting hurdles.
Yes.
If you get anywhere, you have to fight, you have to keep going. And you learn to trust yourself. You learn to trust your own judgment. But then you get to a certain point where, maybe you've reached the limits of your experience and you've got to start listening to other people and you need to take in that advice. So this is one of those moments, I think, where it's hard. You have to balance your inner strength, your certainty that you're going to figure out a way to get through with the advice you're hearing from other people. And as we've been saying all along here, one size does not fit all. There's no right answer for everybody. There are some people who should stop. The answer isn't keep going no matter what. There are times when, especially a moment like this, if you run a restaurant, I mean, what could be harder than running a restaurant right now? The right answer might be to, preserve whatever powder you have left and fight another day.
Yes.
The answer is not always to keep going. So, I think where do you find, if you don't have resilience, you're not in this business. You're not doing this. Sometimes the answer is the question you need to answer is, when do you stop? And I think that's worth thinking about.
No, that's true as well. And I appreciate that for sure. Kayla, what are you seeing regarding that? And I think it's so important is that, as Dana said, who would have thought selling books online? And one more thing I'll add about the naysayers is that I think part of it's execution as well. You can have two different people. Me and Kayla, we both start a pen company. Everybody tells us it's a bad idea. It probably is a bad idea, but we start a pen company and Kayla rocks it. It becomes the next $3 million, $5 million company, and me, it fizzles out. So part of it's execution. But Kayla, what are you saying about mindset? How do you have good mindset? How do you strengthen yourself and stay positive? What tricks do you do? Not tricks, but tactics.
Well, I love the fact that Vic earlier mentioned infopreneurship. That was one of the components that I, tapped into. That was one of my pivotal, components that I added to my business. So I started writing a small business curriculum. And part of the preface, it's mental resilience, So for me, like just mental resilience, I mean, it starts in the gut. And, our gut is our core, and our core is our values. So stick to your core values. As long as you are sticking to your non-negotiables, your core values, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, that is
That's
true.
what it was for me.
I like it. I believe that for sure. We got about 8 minutes to go, give or take, maybe 7 minutes. And I've just been, the time goes by so fast. A great conversation. Vic, I'll turn to you as well. What have you personally learned during this time? Can you share about anything? I don't want to get too personal. I don't want us all to start crying or anything like that. But what have you personally learned during this time, Vic? When March hit, what did you think? What were you going through? And then today, what can we learn from your experience on that?
Well, it was tough. Tremendously. I'm here in New York City and live up in Harlem, and my wife is an ER physician. And so it hits us quite hard. I ran up to her parents' home, in fact. And so I want to give thanks and appreciation to my wife and her peers, as well as my in-laws, for tolerating me for 6 weeks, let alone my children and the dog. And really what we learned tremendously, and we grew tremendously during that time as everyone ran to video. So that was a very awkward, bittersweet increase. And it was really kind of circling the wagons, which we still do, to really love on our raving fans, really. Our raving fans, our members, just about all of our members are raving fans. And, as they tell their colleagues, their friends, hey, check this thing out. That's been tremendous for us. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us, where it's what if every one of our clients can bring us one more client, and 2 becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16, 32, 64, 128. And then I forget or 264. I know RAM is basically computer RAM. So outside of that, I don't know. It's doubling a penny every day, all that kind of stuff. And for us, for me, it's very much of like, what can we do to really bring value to our members, because they're going to be our greatest evangelists, our raving fans, and really help us grow this thing. And I think that could be said for almost every business in one way or another. There's a famous quote that I was trying to look up that while Kayla and Lauren were speaking, I couldn't find who to attribute it, where don't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't turn to for advice. And I find that really, really relevant and really resonant with me. Yes. Kind of why when Ramon, you give me any criticism, it hurts, because I would turn to you for advice, and I do. So from that aspect, I think that's how. And then we end every one of our video socials where we ask a member something that they enjoyed about today's session or enjoy about video socials. And I can't be on all the clubs because we have quite a few of them at this point. But I do watch all of the enjoys, as we call them internally, all the times that members share their closing statements and share their thoughts. That's really what really shapes my mindset. I want to make sure our members are gaining value and doing business with one another. And, that keeps me going because, we all need that uplifting time. And I hope we can be there for each other to uplift each other as rising ships.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. Lauren, what about yourself, Lauren? Do you remember, not necessarily you personally you can talk about, but more so who you represent, the small businesses? You have an amazing newsletter. You watch the market and the economy and the marketplace of small business. When you think about March and think of today, any theme, lessons you're seeing, especially thinking of back then to now, anything that we can learn from that, Lauren, that you've, if I'm wrong, push back, but I kind of see Lauren as like a guy in a tree watching the traffic and watching it, the world of small business, that is. What can we learn from that?
I think there were a lot of people back in March that wanted to believe that this was a 2 or 3 week thing that we were going into. And I think the lesson there is, if we've got to learn it by now. You got to take this thing seriously. It's a crisis. There was a lot of talk for a long time about, what do we focus on, the economy or the health crisis? And I think we've learned you can't solve the economy if you don't solve the health crisis, and you have to think about what that means for your particular business. I think, just like I was saying before about a restaurant right now, it just might not be the time. You have to think about all those external factors, and they're things that are not in your control.
Yeah, no, that's powerful, Lauren. Thank you very much. And I'm curious, Kayla, from you, for those who are like I think you are, who like to do a lot of different things, any advice to us? You could say, I want to do one business and just grow it and do it that way. But clearly you enjoy the hustle of a few different things you're doing. Why is that? And what's your advice to those like you with how to juggle? These are different things, different marketing, different customers. How do you do that and why? Help guide us in that. What can we learn?
Okay, so I'm being honest. I did not always have it together.
Sure.
But I'm one of those people, I can't just do one thing. So yes, fortunately I am able to, diversify, considering that I do have multiple, businesses. Like I said earlier, I've added other components to my business. Just to name a few, like I'm bad with time management, so I implemented a virtual assistant component.
Yes.
To the company, so that has helped the business tremendously. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did. You did. You got it. Because I think the thing is that many of us are doing one thing. Some people are doing several things. Vic is running 2 businesses. So I was just curious, to get into the mind. Some people are like, wow, how do people like a Vic or like a Kayla do so many things? In the case of Lauren's people he works with, Paul has been very focused on, woodworking. Dana's getting into maybe 1 or 2 different things. So no, you did answer the question. Vic, just what about yourself? And then Lauren, I'll turn it to you to close us out. Running 2 businesses, maybe you I know, Vic, you have at least 20 more businesses in your head at least. Tell us about that journey. What can we learn? What drives you to do that? And what others who kind of are doing a few different things, how they can balance it, management. I know you have a partner, which helps a lot to help us understand that.
Yeah. First, I don't want anyone to maybe I missaid it and I don't want anyone to misunderstand. I think the quote is, don't take criticism from anyone that you wouldn't take advice from. Meaning that if you wouldn't take advice from that guy, what do you care what he says? But back to your question, I cheat, Phone Blogger and Video Socials, they're basically the same business.
Sure, I get it.
Video Socials is just kind of for us internally, it's like Phone Blogger for 2020. So the fact that it happens to be video makes sense because Phone Blogger was written articles when that was in vogue and that was what the priority of the algorithms. And 5 years from now, when the algorithms change that affect word of mouth marketing, it'll be something else, maybe some virtual reality, AI, all the acronyms like that. And so really going back to your question, the other kind of cheat or hack is, I've got a great business partner. He's like my business wife, I guess, or maybe I'm the business wife. I don't know, but he's a tremendous person. He's a little bit older than I am, tremendously more wise than I am, and really centers me that I have tons of crazy, Ramon, as you say, 20 business ideas a day. So he's my filter before it gets to our staff. Sometimes it goes directly to our staff, and I apologize to my staff for that because like the midnight rants, I'm like, we should do this idea, and it's like and they've learned, at least the older staff tend to realize don't just run with every stupid idea Vic has, and the newer people unfortunately get some brunt of it too. Right. And so my staff is wonderful, and that's tremendous. And talking about VAs, we have contractors as well. like really this team. I don't know how solopreneurs who are really solo do it and do it all well. I don't know. Maybe they do. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't. I just know that for me of leverage and sanity, I like having a partner. I like having a team. I like knowing that there are going to be people that will also push back on me. I don't want yes people around me. It will go haywire. I never want to be the smartest person in the room, and it's hardly ever a problem for me. I'm able to rely on the expertise of others and be able to really bring in good people. Character, I think, over competency. Of course, they have to be competent, but the character, I think, now more than ever speaks to leadership and speaks to getting the work done properly. So from that aspect, I'm proud that I'm able to work with really a wonderful team of people that are able to serve our clients, and then our clients are wonderful. So it's really kind of cool for me. The more I can surround myself with the people that I work with, the happier I get. Talk about mindset. So thank you for having me.
I love it. Listen, Kayla Taylor, Universal Salon Suites and more. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Lauren Feldman, host of 21 Hats and more. Thank you for your time, my friend. Vic Rajan, videosocials.net. You should definitely check out the video blogging club he has and his partner. And so thank the three of you for being here. I'm so grateful for your time, and I know time is valuable. You could be anywhere else. Vic could have said, no, Ramon, I'm going to do this. Lauren could have said, no, Ramon. Kayla said no. But you said yes, and I really mean that. Thank you for sharing your insight and knowledge with us. To the people who are on here live, to the people who will be watching it afterwards. We had over 1,000 people sign up. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ramon.